Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. Without inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Hey guys, this is Ernest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $E James, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to our podcast on our YouTube channel and all of your podcast listening platforms. And also check out our sister podcast, the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James, on our YouTube channel. We actually share a YouTube channel. So when you look up Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, you can also find the playlist for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, which is a podcast where I talk to other girl dads like myself and daughters to talk about the dynamic relationship that dads and daughters have. So make sure you guys are checking us out on your social media and podcast listening platforms for that. Also, I want to tell you guys how you can win $100 from the podcast, but you got to stay until the end of the episode in order to get that information, right? So, but you can win $100. So just stay tuned, which I know you're going to stay tuned anyway, because we have great conversations, right? So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Mr. Wilson. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the platform, man. I really appreciate what you're doing. I really
do. No problem. Let me say thank you for being on, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and we definitely appreciate it. So do me a favor, introduce yourself to my listeners and tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
It's the hardest part of the interview, right?
Right.
I always hate this part. My name is Kenneth Wilson. I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland, which is right outside the DMV. If anybody's familiar with the area, and this is home for me, and so I consider myself a career helper. This is what I do. I'm just about how can we genuinely connect and help other people, right? So with that, I kind of keep busy. I'm a little bit of a workaholic, but I work in my passion. So my main thing is I'm the founder of an organization called Men of Stature, and all we produce is provide various services for Black men, which includes a lot of different things. I can tell you just from in safe spaces, we have a program called the Gentleman's Lounge. We provide safe spaces virtually, in person, and just getting Black men to just come together, connect, and just talk and share, whatever that means. From there to college campuses and things like that. I do a lot with literacy. Literacy. We have programs for reading. We also launch National Black Men Day, which is a national holiday, and that's September 26th every year. So, and that's just a day again to honor and celebrate positive Black men, the men in our families, men in our communities, to talk about issues that are concerning Black men. And so we just have a day for that. And so a lot of the things that we do are just based around that. I also keep busy by writing. Apparently I'm an author. I don't know how that started, how that happened. It just happened. But here we are, 7 bestsellers later. And so just being blessed with that, just to be able to share. And even within that, bringing community to share our voices, our stories, and so I've been extremely proud of that. Also, I don't stop talking. I'm also a podcaster. Just run my mouth all day. I don't know, but a couple podcasts. So mine is the Positive Isn't Popular podcast. You can check that out exclusively on Patreon. Also do a lot with education. So we have the Education is the Key podcast, and you can check that out on the website as well. Follow on social media. But through all of those things, and I've dabbled in consulting. I do a little bit in political consulting and things like that. And it's just about how we can just connect with people. Speaking of your podcast too, I'm also a proud girl dad. I got 3 daughters, married here, my wonderful wife, and even though I'm outnumbered, I always say it's daddy's dictatorship. I ain't gonna tell them they can't hear me, but I don't know. I don't know if that works, but so all those things, that's just what it is. I do a lot in community safety and in terms of teaching people just how to help other people in emergency situations, in various advocacies and teaching and courses and stuff that I do there. And so, in a nutshell, it's kind of pretty
Yeah.
much me.
Right. Yeah, like you said, it is when you start talking about the things that you do, it just kind of flows. But that introduction, doing that introduction is always the same. But I like how you said you are a career helper. And one of the things I always say when I introduce myself, I just say at my core, I'm just a person that loves people. You know,
Yeah.
so that's all it's about. Everything I do is helping somebody else in some kind of way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But one of the things I want to talk about, you mentioned about the programs that you do for men, and I definitely want to talk about that because one of the things that I want to provide here with this platform is definitely a place for men to provide a safe space for us to be able to speak
Yeah.
our minds and be open with each other. But I definitely want to hear a little bit more about that before we even get into that, right? So with everything that you do, it also I know it all comes from a part of yourself in some way, you
Yeah.
know. So who was Kenneth before you even started all this? Like who were you like at your core, and then what was that initial incident of impact that made you say, you know what, I'm gonna change, take what I've learned and what I'm going through, and see how I can help somebody else.
I mean, honestly, I go back to childhood really.
Hmm.
Because the stuff I started doing, I was in high school doing some of this stuff, right? But it does stem from, I mean, I have the background and upbringing that a lot of us, unfortunately, a lot of us young Black men have. I share that in terms of a lot going on at home. I come from a family of drug use, the hood, and all that stuff. And for me, so seeing that at a young age, I kind of just learned. I saw that side. I didn't want to be that. I knew that, but also I was blessed enough to be in an area where I also saw the other side of the fence. I saw family, I saw community, I saw people coming together, help each other, and I just gravitated naturally towards that. So I kind of I pushed myself away from the negative, and then so over there you got to see, and I just, for me, it started with family, and I said I vowed that I didn't want the next generation coming up to kind of grow up like we did, to have to see the things that we saw and experience some of those things. And I'm not saying it was the worst in the world, But I found that everybody's situation, your experience, your trauma is relative to you. And so, that's what it was. So for me, it was just like, what can I do to help prevent some of these things or try to inspire and educate, because I've learned early on that, like, I was blessed with understanding,
Hmm.
with patience, love, things like that. And so it was like, okay, how do you now turn that outward? And that's what it was for me.
Yeah. Okay, okay. So even in that journey, because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about myself growing up, not necessarily the same demographic, right?
Yeah.
So I did grow up, I wouldn't necessarily say in the hood, but close enough to where, you know what I'm saying? Definitely, well, I'm from Chicago. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm from
Yeah.
Chicago. So no matter how you look at it, you're connected to the hood because it's
Yeah.
everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whether you're directly taking part in some of the things, even if not, you're associated with someone who does because that's
Yeah.
just the culture of it, right? But not necessarily coming from a background where I personally was involved in a lot of hood stuff, should we say? But still knowing that it exists and still having family members and loved ones that was very much involved in a lot of things that went on in the streets. But when you get to these places where you are now and with the programs that you're running and providing these safe spaces for men, what are some of maybe the common experiences that most of them are kind of dealing with, that now that they're in this safe space, they're able to express it a little bit more.
Oh man. I mean, I think it's a wide range of things. I think for the most part, men just I found that the brothers I've come in contact with really just they just need to just share,
Hmm.
and I think that's where it kind of starts, where it's like, hey, what's going on? And then before you know it, it's like, I just got to get something off my chest. You
Right.
know, I've been thinking about this, but it really goes down to, I mean, a lot of things is in terms of self-worth, like, am I worthy for the things I'm trying to obtain?
Hmm.
um Relationships, am I going to be the man enough that can be the provider? Am I doing the right things? Am I taking the right steps? There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of self-doubt in a lot of these conversations. It's a lot of frustration just with trying to advance one step forward, two steps back kind of thing, just being in this environment and trying to be a black man in this country and get ahead. Fatherhood is another big one. A lot of men feeling inadequate. It's like, how did I didn't have the right upbringing. I don't know if I was taught the right way. How can I pour into my children? How can I pour into my family? And so for me, it's been like revelations, because there's a lot of just doubt and worry and stress, and I see a lot of brothers who really do want to take these steps. They're out here trying,
Right.
they're really trying to make it. And sometimes their first battle is with themselves.
Right.
That's the struggle. It's them. It's like, the old phrase, you fight in the mirror, you're the man in the
Right.
mirror kind of thing. And that's where a lot of the holdup is. That's where a lot of step. And so it's just like, in conversation and just being together, there's been a lot of release, because they learn that, oh, I'm not the only one out here doing this.
Right. Right.
Brothers out here, we sharing. These are the things we're sharing. And then comes, well, hey, this is how I got out of it. Maybe try this. So now you come solutions
Right.
and community. And there's a lot of comfort in that. Now I got somebody I can go talk to. Let me holler at my man. I know he went through this kind of thing. And so that's together, we Steam brothers kind of start coming out of this stuff, man. And
Yeah.
from all levels, man. Like I said, we started to work with college young men. We up on Morgan State University's campus doing the same thing. And so for at that level, it's kind of similar. They're just getting started in their journey. And so you're starting to see the roots of some of those
Hmm.
conversations. Whereas brothers, we were getting them 10, 15 years later. Now we can get them as these things are starting, just beginning to manifest within inside of them. And so
Yeah.
it's a lot of that stuff. I could
Yeah.
go
And
all day on that.
yeah. Yeah. But and that's why I asked, because I know that one of the things that I definitely believe in and know to be true is that sharing piece is so important, because it opens up the door. And I always say it's open when I'm able to open up and be vulnerable, it gives the other person permission to do the same,
Yeah,
and a lot of times, sometimes we're trying to save face with each other, you know what I mean? So we don't want to admit our
man.
weaknesses, admit that I'm going through something, because like I don't want this brother to look at me a different way. But when I can come and openly say, hey, look, this is what I dealt with, talk about I'm very open, talk about my divorce, talk about my depression, talk about suicidal ideations when my mom died and wanted to take my own life. I'm very open about all of those things, because I know I'm not the only one dealing with them, and I know I'm not the only one that's going to, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
by me opening up and being vulnerable and say, look, this is what I dealt with, this is how I got through it, it open up that door for other brothers to just know it, like, all right, let me go on and stop, take off this facade, and I can just be myself and say, hey, bro, I'm hurting myself. You know what I
yeah.
mean? But sometimes it just take somebody to be the first one to say it. You know what I mean?
It takes one. And I just to piggyback on what you're saying, this facade thing, like I know it's talked about a lot, right? But I think it's the one of the most under discussed pieces of when we start talking about this issue of just men in general, man.
Mhm.
We've really been in this state of that's how we were trained. We were trained to be this way, and I think some people they say, "Oh no, you just acting like that." That is deeply, deeply rooted in the black male community. That is a hard thing to really want to come out of, and because there also is still a lot of judgment around, and it's hard and insecurities in these things, man. So that's why that particular program, the lounge, has been so important for me because I mean it really started with me and my boys. Kind of started with us. I mean, early pandemic, we would be on Zoom, just no program. This before all that started. We
Right.
would be on Zoom till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, just chopping it up, talking. We'd be at the laughing, crying, man. And because it was pandemic, we had nothing else to
Right.
do.
You ain't going nowhere.
But I mean, literally, the cameras would be on, and we would just be sitting there talking, chopping it up. We get to arguing sometimes, but that's where it started. And it was like we didn't even realize the impact it had on us.
Mhm.
But we just got together and just shared and just talked. And like you said, being vulnerable, man, like, and it was such a release. It was so like in a sense therapeutic,
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, oh, the light bulb went off. How can I bottle this up, take
Right.
this formula, which is a very simple formula. I'm not even gonna lie. It's not like we did anything special. It's just space here,
Yep.
you know, space, time, opportunity. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would encourage you, man. How like we need more of these spaces out there. So I
Yeah.
don't want, hopefully we need these pockets. We need this. So again, I know you want to do that. I would encourage you, and then my next thing is however I can help, let me
Right.
know.
No doubt, no doubt, man. And that's definitely, like I said, that's something I want to do. Because just in our community is there's so much that goes on in our communities that we don't address,
Yeah.
and then it just kind of just follows us, you know what I mean, everywhere that we go. And so we have to start looking at, okay, what's going on in our communities? How can we change things? How can we even add opportunities and things that we may have now that we didn't have growing up?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I'm big on. Like I'm a bricklayer by trade, and I knew
Okay.
I wanted to be a bricklayer when I was in 8th grade. I'm like, all right, that's what I'm doing. But I didn't know how to go about it. I didn't
Yeah.
know where to go. I didn't know where to start, and so I ended up going to college and taking construction classes in college, and it was maybe a good 3 or 4 years before I found out about the unions and apprenticeships and the
Mm,
fact that they'll pay for you to go to college, and you get on the job training and all those things. So I always think about that. And so now I go back. That's one of the programs that I have to go into schools and even some colleges, and be like, hey, this is available to you.
yeah.
These building trades, because everybody don't want to go to college. Everybody's not necessarily college material, but that don't mean you can't have a good career and be able to provide for your family, in that way. And so just those things like that our neighborhoods and our community necessarily don't have, that we just gotta take up the space and provide, and
Yeah.
step out there and do it.
And it takes brothers to come back and want to be that beacon.
Yeah,
Like it takes. We don't know. It's like brothers don't know what they don't know. And if
right,
they've never been told and never been exposed to, we can't expect people to come out of the cycle. So it takes brothers to want to go back and say, hey, this is what we got going on over here. This is what I can show you. Let me teach you something. And I know it's hard work sometimes. It is, but we need it. If nobody, somebody's got to do it. We got to step up. We can't just
yeah,
say looking at everyone else to step up. Sometimes it takes that one move, man. It does.
right. And it can make a big difference, because
Yeah.
years later, when I found out about the apprenticeships and the bricklayers and all of that, and I actually did get involved with it, I come to find out one of my friends who graduated from high school with me, same school, same class, his dad was a bricklayer. So
See,
when he got out, he went right into the trades, and I went to college. So he
yeah,
started off getting paid right away, and I'm paying
go
to
back to school.
learn what I still end up going back, And so, like I said, if it was just that, not necessarily saying that his father had to be that person, but if somebody, what
Yeah,
I mean, had it came back with that information just to share, what I mean, it could have. I know it would have made a difference in my life. And again, that's why I'm so vocal myself about even kind of going into these spaces and the things that I've learned, to be able to open up and say, hey, maybe you could take this route, especially with our young men, because a lot of us, because of our backgrounds, maybe some of the things that we got into young and got into some trouble. And so all things are not necessarily open to you. Some
yeah,
jobs you can't get, but the building trades, pretty much, if you're willing to work, you know what I mean, they'll give you a job.
yeah.
And so I try to make sure that they know that that's available.
And also to show that you could be successful doing it. I think that's another thing that especially young brothers need to see. They don't. We hear about these things, but they don't know, like, okay, you can actually be successful doing this.
Mhm.
They have to see, to visualize the actual track to success. Even if whatever it is. But it takes a brother who's done it, been through it, success, to come back and say, hey, no, we doing this over here. Look, I got you over here. And so that's why it's also so important. And going back to like the networking community piece of it, you know, they need to see people who look like them doing it and not just talking about it.
Right.
We need to see it. They need to experience. They need somebody who can be tangible to them, you know? And so that's why I commend you for even doing that. We need more in all industries and all the things that the brothers are doing to come back and show the next generation these avenues that they can go be successful.
Right, definitely. So speaking of two things in one that we just mentioned, we mentioned about community, and then I know we talked a little bit earlier. You were mentioning about the books that you're involved with, and one of them, I know we talked a little bit off air, the Impact to Influence, which is a book with several authors. When you guys came together and started working on that project, and I've had some of those guys on, talking about their experiences. So I want to talk about your experience, even with that book, and also, some of your other books. But first of all, talking about that one, how was that experience for you coming together with those other brothers to even write that book? And tell us a little bit about the concept of the book for the listeners that don't know about it.
Yeah. So the Impact of Influence series, it's actually a series of books now. The lead author is my guy, and Chip Baker. And so we actually first met, connected. We were part of another book, actually my first book. And we were part of that compilation. It's like 24 Black men came together. It's called Suited for Success. Shout out to my guy PK Kersey up in Brooklyn doing his thing. But through that, we had kind of connected. And this is the thing about these books, like, we all came together, we meeting, we're going through the process. And so we just generally started networking with each other. And so from that, he hit me up. He said, hey, I'm doing my thing. I got this idea. You want to jump on and be a part of this kind of opportunity? And so for me, yeah, you my guy, whatever.
Mhm.
And so it kind of started like that. And then as you go through this process, you're writing together, you're meeting together, you're going through this journey. We're releasing a book. You got to go through the whole politics of it, the business of it, And so you come on the other side with now a new network of brothers that you never met, never had access to before. And these common bonds kind of bring us together. And so doing the book together, that's how it kind of started. So the process for me was, just a little synopsis. It's really just about the kind of core of the series is, you know, how do you use the tools you have, the influence you have, pretty much your experiences, your life, and things like that. How are you using those to impact other people, to now take that now to other people. And so the series now, there's different books for kind of everything. There's a book for coaches. There's a book with all women in that series there. I know another one that's coming out is how do you take like the personal struggles and now turn that. So like each book has its own theme to it.
Mm.
So I've been a part of 3 of those books. I think there's almost 8 of them now, something like that. Chip, don't kill me if I missed that. But but so that experience really opened my eyes more to the business aspect of books, to the possibilities in the realm of what they just being an author, a best-selling author, can do for you in your career as well too.
Mm.
And so it became very, very, very interested in that process. Just wanted to share, and so it kind of took me down my own path. And so learning, okay, his theory, his kind of theme took him there, and I had my own. And so even I started my series around love. And so it really started with the book Black Men Love. Okay. And that book was literally, it actually really kind of spawned from those old Zoom meetings during the pandemic. And we were coming together and just talking about those things. So I kind of did the same thing. I grabbed 14 brothers and we just talked about our life and sharing experiences around the concept of love. For me, which was a conversation that I don't hear enough. As a Black man, how do you feel about love? And I just left it there. Romantic love, personal love, whatever it was, express and share that. And so that journey, just going through that process, was really eye opening, man. I love that process. Just going through the other brothers, and I grabbed from all ages, all walks of life. So we started at 14. I got a young brother's 14, talking about his love for pizza and video games. And we worked our way up, all backgrounds and stuff, man. And so that was really cool. And so that we did that process. And what we did, the brothers got to bring the ladies into it. And so last year we did Black Women Love. And that was a very different journey in itself. That was fun, man. But to go through it from the woman's perspective. And I'll be honest, it was my theme, my concept, but I ain't writing that book. That book wasn't for me. But it allowed the woman to have their voice and their outlet with the same theme. And so just seeing the growth and talk about the impact, how other people have now read those books and what they've gotten from it, man. I've always loved forms of storytelling and things like that, but it's a different level of connection to hear people when they give feedback from the books. Because from my personal opinion, I'm gonna be honest, like other forms of media, you can watch it, you can sit there real quick. To me, there's something about reading.
Yeah.
There's something about sitting down, especially if you got a physical book and you take the time to sit down and focus and concentrate and you extract what's on those pages. And now you still have to process it in your brain to come up with this idea and this picture and what's going on. There's something different about that to me,
Yeah.
And so I have really appreciated the people that have taken the time to go through that with something that we put together, you know? And so I'm really grateful of the feedback that we get from the books. And so far from done. I got a couple other things on my sleeves, but so yeah, that I love the book process so much. Like I was telling my wife, like, I still don't consider myself to be a writer or author. I don't. Because for me it's like it's a journey,
Mhm.
you know.
Okay, cool. I can definitely agree with you in some aspects. I've been trying to write this one book for the longest, and I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get to the finish. And
Yeah.
I was in the midst of me trying to write this one full book. I've written 4 ebooks, right?
See?
So it's like
Yeah.
and then we'll try to get this one done, So I'm gonna keep on hitting at it, but I definitely understand. One of my books that I'm very proud of, and I do a lot of speaking on other platforms and stuff about, is a book that I call The Core Four, which is the four core values that every daughter should get from her father.
Mm.
And I've done a lot of podcast episodes and been on different platforms, talking about that book. And even more recently, one of the platforms I was on, doing the talk, it was like myself and like four young ladies, and we were having a conversation. But even afterwards and during, they was like, you know what, you need to take this from just being an ebook and make it a full book,
Yeah.
and I've really been thinking about that lately. Like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. So definitely understand the power that's in it just by the conversations that I've been having, and then the conversations that are held with me, even with like fathers like yourself, girl dads, because on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, we actually talk about those core values that I think are important, and so we are able to have those conversations, and I've gotten great feedback from the daughters that have read the books and from the fathers,
Yeah.
that have read it. And so definitely like, all right, I think I need to expound on that a little more and work on that some more. But I definitely know the power in those pages, and it's always great when you to hear the feedback after you've poured yourself into it,
Yeah.
then get that final product, and then you're like, whew, finally finished. But then not only that, but to get the feedback from other people and be like, you know what, I really enjoyed it. I got so much out of it, and those things. As an author, I do consider myself an author. as an author, those are definitely some great feeling, that
Yeah.
your work has been acknowledged.
Because talk about being vulnerable,
Hmm.
like I can tell you, like once you finish and it's like that, there's like that period of time from the time you finish actually physically writing, editing, from the time you have to release it. Oh man, that's like the most nerve wracking period of time. Sometimes it's been a couple weeks, sometimes it's been a couple months, and you sitting there
Hmm.
like, should I tweak this? Can I go back? Can I write this? Like, and so I just had to learn to just like let it go.
Right.
Like this is what it is. Like, because if not, you'll sit there and you'll go back and try to edit every little thing. You'll write a whole other book
Right.
just trying to go back and just, because it's so I kind of get there's a certain level of like excitement to that process for me. I can't call it a thrill or anything, but it's like I enjoy that level of, what, like it's nerve wracking at the same time being that vulnerable, but it's also equally fulfilling
Hmm.
to know that like, okay, I put it out there. I put it out there. So again, I love the journey of this.
Right, right. So before we get out of here, I know you're a girl dad, and we mentioned about the girl dad discussions, and we definitely gonna make plans to have you on. But it's two questions that I always ask every girl dad when they're on, and I haven't even done it in a while. I'm about to get back to it. But definitely two questions I always ask. The first question is, what does it mean to you personally to be a girl dad? And the
Mm.
second question is, what is something that your daughters, because you have three, have taught you?
Um, what does it mean? I mean, for me, it's the opportunity. I don't know, to just be able to pour into. I mean, it's layered for me. So first, I'll go back to just even as a dad to do the things that I wanted to see in my life that I never got to see. The part of, I'll be honest, part of my trauma with that. So for me, it's the opportunity to be there, to show up, and I'll share this with you. When I was growing up, I have my homegirls, my female friends and stuff, and
Mhm.
when they had dads in their life, they would talk about their dads like they were the greatest men on earth. They looked up to their dads, and I would hear that, right? Because my dad wasn't in my life, even though I wasn't a girl. I always said I wanted to be that guy for my daughters
Mhm.
because I would listen to him. I mean, like Like they would, I mean, their dads were their heroes. Up until adulthood, I still have homegirls that were adults, and they still their dad was their hero. Always has been that knight in shining armor, that guy. And I said I wanted to be that. That's what I wanted to be for my daughters. I want my daughters to talk about me like that. So
Yeah.
that means I got to show up. That means I got to handle my business. And a lot of it is just like I just love on them as much as possible. I do. I spoil them to a fault. I ain't gonna lie. Um, like I said, I know some of the things my wife be getting on me, but it's just being there, and everything that I can possibly be for them, I'm gonna do it, and that's just how I feel. And then the second question you said, what's something that they've taught me?
Yeah.
Um, honestly, it's the how to express love. Like as a man, I thought I was good. I thought I knew how to express myself and my emotions, and I've done the whole route in healing. I tried. That's one thing I've always tried, but until I had daughters, I don't think I knew what I was doing. Be honest with you, like I thought, you think you love. I got my wife, my girl. Is this that's a different level
Right.
as a girl dad, man. Like, I'm not even trying to get emotional thinking about it, but when I learned how to like hug, to say I love you, like just to be there and just like wrap yourselves around, like just that, like vulnerability, the expression of part of it,
Mhm.
to show it. Like I can say it 100 times, but I want you to feel it. So they really taught me how to really get into that space and just how to really just love each other like that, you know, like the little things to matter to me. Like I was sharing with you, I'll share with everyone. I don't care at this point. Like they came to me the other day and was like, "Daddy, let me paint your toenails." And I was like, "Why not? All right, I'm game for it." Like we sat there and I don't know, we was eating ice cream or something. And it was just like, I can be that guy. I'm open.
Mhm.
You know, if that puts a smile on their face, it didn't cost me anything.
Right.
I'm open. And I would have never done that with anybody else. Probably I still won't do that with anyone else.
Right.
But with them, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
and so for me, that has I don't know, you unlock certain things. You know how they say new thing unlocked, right?
Right.
And I feel like just being with them has been, I've been able to unlock that part of my life and now take that to other parts. And so, but I didn't have that before. They've
Yeah.
taught me so much on that. And so it's made it's such a like, I don't even know if I'm explaining it correctly.
Right. Right.
I don't have to put words to it, but yeah.
I get it. I get it definitely, man. And I was even thinking about when you're talking about you learn how to hug, right? And
Yeah.
so even recently, my daughter's with me now, home from college, and the other day she had some things that she was working that had been working toward, and it just fell through. And she was
Mm.
just like, "Dad, I tried my best. I was trying so hard, and and kind of being probably more hard on herself than anything." And I told her, come here, come get this hug,
Yeah.
and I began to just talk to her about, like, I'm not pressuring you for that. That's, whatever the pressures is, like you said, you did your best. You tried everything within your power to make the things, to work out. And that was outside of your power is outside of your power. So don't hold yourself responsible for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but to take that moment and just to hug her and, wipe her tears and like, it's gonna be all right. Those moments, you know what I mean? It means so much to you and to them, even
Yeah.
more so than you know what I mean? And I talk about sometimes with me, that taking the time out to just be there, to be
Yep.
present, like you said. And it can be something small, and then even the ways that they show love, like I'm bald headed, what I'm saying? I ain't got no hair, So when she gets ready to leave from work, if I'm sitting at my desk, she'll come kiss me on the top of my head and say, "All right, Dad, I'm finna go." You know what I mean? And so those moments,
Yeah.
those little things, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
like, yo, that's what it's about. To have for even to be have poured in her so much to the point that she feels that free to express herself,
Yeah.
to show her love for me, however she feels, you know what I mean? And to create that in her, I'm just like, okay, cool, So yeah, I love it, man. I love it. I love these discussions. Again, we definitely got to have you on the girl dad discussions where we can spend a whole hour
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
nothing but our daughters, man. So yeah, we gonna do that. We definitely gonna work on that. So Mr. Wilson, man, I definitely appreciate you being on. I definitely appreciate having this conversation with you. I want you to have the last word, and I want you to leave us with your social media handles and also the information of where we can get your books, definitely, and even take part of some of the products that you offer, or should I say services that you offer, especially as being men, to be able to come into that safe space. I think you said one of those is virtual, so maybe we can connect that way. So I definitely want you to leave us with that information. So I want you to, I'll give you a couple minutes to kind of think of, everything that you want to say. In the meantime, to my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And thank you guys. Make sure that you guys are checking us out on our websites. Again, dealhealfulfill.org. That's dealhealfulfill.org is our main website where you can find out more about me, more about things that I'm doing, and even have me come out, book me to come out to be a speaker or to hold a workshop at your school or organization. Again, that's the dealhealfulfill.org website. And also our Deal to Heal tees. Deal2healtees.com is where our inspirational t-shirt line can be found. Put some inspiration in your situation, wear inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. So go there and get you some inspiration from our tees. And also ebooks by ejames.com. You heard us talking about a little bit of the Core 4 ebook is on there. We also have an ebook called From Males to Men, which is a male mentoring ebook for young boys, as well as some other things, other ebooks that I've written. So ebooks by ejames.com. Make sure you guys go there to check that out. And I've also been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And one of the things that we do is we hold free virtual workshops every quarter of the year. And we talk about forgiveness, what it is, what it's not, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, just everything forgiveness. We talk about it and explain it because I really believe that forgiveness is one of the things that we need to have in this world in order for us to move forward as a people. So make sure that you guys go to forgivenessmission.com, or you can just go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Workshop to take part of our free virtual workshop. So whenever you're listening to this, either one just passed or one is coming up, so you can get on there and take part of the free virtual workshops that we have. So make sure you guys do that. And last but not least, I told you guys that you can win $100 from the podcast. And the way that you win $100 from the podcast is by joining our super subscriber contest, which means you must first subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook page, and to our podcast on Spotify. Then text the word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. The contest is ongoing and is random. So once you're in, you can always win. You don't never have to re-up or anything like that. And so also make sure when you text the word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730, that you leave your contact information, which is your name, phone number, and email address, so that we can contact you if you are our next $100 winner. All right. So again, Mr. Wilson, I want to say thank you so very much for being on, for sharing your expertise and the stories about your daughters. I always love to have those conversations, and I really appreciate you being on. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
Oh man. Well, I always say I'm a pretty easy person to find, so it ain't gonna be too much. But if you're looking for me, really check out my website. Everything is pretty much there, which is my name, KennethRWilson.com. And there you can find the bookstore. You have links and purchase all the books there, links to the shows and the podcasts, any information there if you wanted to reach out and connect that way as well. So that's probably the most basic way to find me. If you're looking for my organization, Men of Stature, again, you can go to the website there, menofstature.org. You can learn about all the things we have going on, the projects, connect there as well too. And then if you're looking on social media, my handles are pretty much the same, like the big three. If you're looking at Facebook, X, I got to call it, I guess, Instagram, it's all the tagline. It's Mr. Kenneth Wilson. Okay. Men of Stature. Again, the tagline is at Men of Stature, especially on Instagram. Join the Facebook group we got going on over there as well, too. Again, the podcasts are the same. The links are there, too. And so that's pretty much it. Again, I just want to thank you for just having me on. Again, I'm always appreciative of anybody that's out there trying to help and inspire other people, so just keep going, stay encouraged. Again, I'm here, anything I can do to try to help, share knowledge and resources, something, and so that's what I feel like we need to do for each other, so just thank you for the platform. Keep doing your thing, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. So until next time, you guys be blessed.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.